The Bachman family, from Farmington, Connecticut, tell a story quite similar to the Fishman family. Stacy Bachman and her son, Daniel Bachman, explain how Stacy's grandfather was able to survive the Holocaust and kept memoirs for his family to refer to when they wanted to learn more about the family history.
I'm Stacy Bachman. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, but I live in Farmington, Connecticut now. And I've lived in Connecticut for the last 26 years. As far as opportunities that were available and economics, it probably didn't differ very much from my childhood. However, one, I'm divorced, so my children went through a divorce and a breakup of the family. And two, I think there was a lot less pressure on both of my kids to sort of perform. Although there was pressure to be the best versions of themselves and definitely academic pressure to succeed and to work hard at things. But I think overall, they were more able to just pursue whatever they were interested in, whatever. Well, my grandfather escaped Germany in the 30s, and his wife actually escaped Germany, although her brother died in a concentration camp. So the Holocaust was always sort of present in our lives, and it gave us a sense of responsibility or requirement to carry on the faith. Even though I wouldn't say I'm sort of religious in my heart, it was very important to me that my kids be raised Jewish. I honor the rituals to this day, although I'm not a temple goer. But I think I have an obligation to carry on, or at least educate about Judaism and the traditions that go with it. So I don't really remember because it's so much a part of my family's history. My father's first generation American, and as I said, his father escaped the Holocaust at the end of the 30s, and there's a lot of family lore about getting my great-grandmother and great-grandfather out. My grandfather's brother went to Israel. My grandfather bopped around between London before he got here. He almost starved to death, but he made it. So I don't have a particular memory of when I was introduced to what went on there. It's just part of my history. Biggest memory I have is my grandfather talking about how they kicked him out of England. He went there to make enough money to get his sister and his parents out of Germany, and he went there illegally, and they kicked him out of England. He did make it to this country through cousins in North Dakota, which is also that's mostly what I remember about how we talked about the Holocaust. There are also other people, like I said, my grandmother's brother who died in a concentration camp, and we were just aware of the losses to our family. I also have a sect of my family that went to Israel and started a kibbutz, and is still there to this day. So that's also sort of part of the lore of the change that resulted in the Holocaust. So the story he told, and again this is his story, is that when he got here he had very little money in his pocket. Came through North Dakota and somehow got to New York. I don't know how. He was sharing a studio apartment with, I think, 2 other men. They had one bed and they would sleep in shifts. And he was selling boxes, containers. And he wasn't having any success, and he was down to his last dollar, thought he wasn't gonna make it, and then he got a big order, I think from an ice cream store. Now I'm not remembering exactly where. A big order, and it saved his life here. And then from that he went on to sell things. He always sold condiments and all this stuff out of his trunk and to restaurants and delis and so on, and then he made it. So then he was able to put a roof over his head and get married and take
people who wanted to eradicate them. And this doesn't just include the Holocaust, though on my mom's side a lot of Holocaust, there's Holocaust survivors, particularly my great-grandfather, who I actually knew in life, but also my mom's mother, I think, was from Russia and had to flee because of pogroms and didn't have a birth certificate because of that, and we don't know where she's from. My ancestry I can trace back to Poland, and I'm almost certain it was they came to America for the same reason. And I think that one of the things that I've refound in Judaism now, because I was not particularly a practicing Jew between the ages of 18 and maybe 21 even, like that was the range, is that now when I do these rituals, when I think about these things, I feel connected to everybody who did it before, who might not have been as lucky as my immediate ancestors. Something that is both a valuable part of my early education and maybe kind of numb me to it is that every single year in school we'd have a Holocaust unit. And every single year in school we'd read a book about it, we'd have a discussion. I actually vividly remember role-playing, though I'm not so sure about that as a good idea now looking back, but I vividly remember that there was like, I think I was in 4th or 5th grade and we role-played like a town council of Jews who were worried about the rising tide of anti-Semitism in Germany, and that's weird. I think that in my immediate family, it all stems back to my great-grandfather, who was a survivor, who fled Germany, who managed to at the last minute get his immediate family out of Germany, and the Holocaust was almost always filtered through this heroic story of Papa Harold and what he did, and that was a lot of fodder for school presentations and projects, but also not something that us as Jews really dwelled on outside of that and outside of school. I feel like, as significant as it is, I can't think of many conversations I had with friends and relatives about the Holocaust that didn't specifically pertain to my great-grandfather.
Would you?
I talked about school projects about a year ago. I was working in this creative biography class, and it was at the same time that there was all this anti-refugee sentiment, and I was like, well, I'm an ancestor of immigrants fleeing these kind of national crises, I should look them up. And the story as it had been told to me forever was Papa Harold saw what was coming, left, came to America, managed to raise enough money at the last minute to get his family out, and that's why we're here. And that is a very, very sanitized version of that story. While writing that creative biography, and the thing that actually connected me more to Judaism, I learned, one, that he was deported from England 5 times after fleeing Germany, and the last time he was held in handcuffs and told that if he came back again, he would be locked up. 2, I found out he got his family out, but this actually happened the week before this creative biography was due in class. I had this big stack of his memoirs, which I'm very fortunate to have those from him, and one little piece of paper that I didn't notice before, and on it was a list of between 30 and 40 names. I don't remember the exact number, but that's the exact amount of people in my family who were perished in camps and just perished in the Holocaust, and that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I started feeling a lot more connected to the rituals, to the culture, not from some kind of spirituality, but from feeling close to those people that I never got a chance to meet, and those ancestors that I never got a chance to meet. There is a tendency to consider the Holocaust as the only thing of significance in Jewish history and Jewish past. I remember reading a review of the Coens brother movie, A Serious Man, which is a great movie, that was just like, thank you, Coens, for making me feel sad and Jewish, but not about the Holocaust. And that's what I think my family did a lot of. There was a lot more discussions about what do these teachings mean, what on Passover, why did this happen, why did this. Important thing, and the thing that I think that my own Holocaust education did a disservice to me in, is the idea, and I think this is also something that happens a lot when we talk about the history of African Americans in the United States, is the fact that the history hasn't stopped. This problem isn't gone, and I think that that's getting harder and harder to ignore as we are right now, with a much bigger rise in neo-Nazis. A temple near my home, a temple that a friend of mine goes to, got a bomb threat called into last year, and I remember hearing that and just feeling shaken to my core. It didn't go, we had this horrible genocidal history point, and that's it, and that's the end of it. That's not how it works. There's still those things that exist, and I think that there's sentiments that we as a Jews in the Jewish community express that I think are not close to that, but at least are a stepping stone on the way to that kind of hatred and distrust. And if we ignore that, treat it like it's a fixed point in history that's never going to happen again, then it's definitely going to happen again. And that's what I think our disservice is.
My mother started doing more talks at the schools, and so I asked her to come to my children's school. They were in school in New Hampshire at the time. And I came, and I was sitting in the back of the room while she was telling the story while my daughter was in 7th grade. And I was watching the kids listen to her and just looking at their facial expressions. And one kid, one of my daughter's friends, had tears coming down her cheeks, and it hit me. The story has to get preserved and be told forever. And so I better write a book. Actually, I said somebody should write a book about this, and I couldn't think of who that somebody was, so I decided it had to be me. And then I started to ask a lot of questions and research and dig deeper. When I was in middle school, I remember thinking history was not important. I hated my history classes. I thought it was ancient Rome. Who cares what happened? I wanted to know about the future. I wanted to know science. I was forward-looking. But I figured out you can't get away from your history. History is important. Everything that happened is affecting who we are now. And then I look around the world and I see what's happening. That you hear the current Republican candidate saying we don't want to let Muslims in our country, or everyone who's a Muslim should be labeled and wear something to show that they're Muslims so we know who they are because they might be terrorists. I'm thinking, put a yellow star on them that says Jew, and then what? Round them up and kill them all? Yeah. Why would we repeat this awful part of history? But it's happening. It's happening in the world now. My mother was a refugee out of Germany going to Holland. Thank God she got out of Germany and got to Holland. It would have been nice if they went further. We got refugees trying to leave Syria, and the countries saying we don't want them. Haven't we learned? They're just people who are trying to survive. And so I feel like we've got to keep telling the story because we're making the same mistakes. We're not helping the people in trouble.
It's not only the Jewish story of 6 million Jews being killed, that the genocide's going on all over, whether it's Africa, whether it's Armenia. I don't know. I don't think that the world has learned yet. It goes on and on and on. And we see what's going on. And we see the Syrian refugees. And what can we do? I mean, when I'm doing it on a smaller scale, when the Hurricane Katrina came and New Orleans was underwater, I said to her, can we take like one family in? We have a spare room. I didn't. I don't know. I had good intentions, but then I am asking for a whole bag of trouble. The world hasn't learned, and I don't think it will ever learn. Whether it's directed to the Jews, whether it's directed to the Tutsis or the whatever. We haven't learned. Do you think we have learned?
The Holocaust should be remembered. Though the dark times brought pain to many people, we need to learn from it. It is important that people hear stories from survivors because there needs to be awareness. The inexcusable events that took place need to be shared for people to understand the depth of the problem. We still experience discrimination by religion and ethnicity today. Though it may not be to the same extremity, the matter still needs to be discussed and learned from.